House will come to order. Calendar of the day. First bill on the calendar for today is House File 719. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 719, an act relating to capital investment.
There are amendments at the desk. If there's no objection, we will let the author explain the bill before we go to amendments. I recognize the author from Douglas, Representative Franson, to explain the bill.
Thank you, members. Today is a good day. Today is a good day. This is the day the Lord has made, and we are going to rejoice and pass a bonding bill off of the House floor. And I am extremely excited to do so. But first, before we talk about the bill, I have some thank yous, which I need to find my notes for, which here it is. All right, first off, I want to thank all the staff. I want to thank my Republican staff. I want to thank Joe Marble, our committee administrator. And this is probably his last year, unless we can convince him otherwise, of serving in the Minnesota House. And he is such a blessing to our community, or to our committee, and to this institution as a whole. And if you don't know Joe Marble, he's got to be one of the hardest working, the most authentic staff members that we have. And he has made capital investment, which can be a slog, it can be boring, it can be dull, but he makes it really fun and keeps us all engaged and with lighthearted laughter, and he just has this great personality, and I hope that you know him as well as I know him. And Joe Marble, I just love you to pieces, so thank you for all of your work. I would like to also thank Chelsea Axelson, our researcher. Remember, she went on maternity leave and then came back from maternity leave very early so that she could see this bonding bill through the finish line. And so I want to thank her for taking time away from Briggs to come and help us get this bill across the line. Also, I want to thank my committee legislative assistant, Karina Nelson. This is her first year serving in the Minnesota House as my LA and as a committee administrator. And as you know, capital investment is not easy. And it is a lot of work, and it is a lot of time away from home, and she did it without complaining, and I appreciate her so very much. And she is, you know, I thought my LA before her, Mary McNamara, was a type A, make sure everything is dotted, all the T's are crossed, and you know, Karina has exceeded my expectations, and she is just absolutely wonderful. DFL staff, Jenny Nash, committee administrator, thank you so much. She is so organized. And I just think that she, you know, if you didn't know Jenny, you would never know what party affiliation she is. She doesn't wear it on her sleeve. She just comes in and does the work, and she believes in the institution, and she believes in the work that she does, and she is a blessing to each and every one of us. Evelyn Weiner, researcher for DFL, again, top notch. I can't say enough good things about her, so thank you for all the work that you have done as well. And then we have, oh gosh, we have Nia Chang, committee legislative assistant, so thank you as well. You know, again, capital investment is very hard. We have so many people coming to us from all across the state, and without our committee legislative assistants, I think we would probably fall apart. Nonpartisan staff, we have Chelsea Griffin and Andy Lee. I'm sure they are going to be extremely excited when this bill is done, because they have been working nonstop all nights of the hours to make it to this point. And so I want to thank each and every one of them as well. Then we have our committee pages, Liz Matlin and Harry Hust. You know, without them, when you would bring treats to our committee, if it was you were presenting the committee, I kind of expected you to bring treats, especially if you were from the Iron Range, you needed to bring patizza. And so thank you for handing those out and handing out all the paperwork that goes along with capital investment. And I want to thank the members on the committee. I have to say that I probably will start crying. I am humbled to co-chair one of the best committees in this institution. This is a very partisan job at times, but in capital investment, we leave our labels at the door and we get the work done for the state of Minnesota. And Chair Lee, I have so much respect for you and the partnership that we have and the friendship that we have, and I know that this bill would not be as good as it is without your assistance. Vice Chair Frederick, I'm sure I'm going to turn his face beet red, and I hope I do, and it's going to be worth it. He is a fantastic human being. He's shaking his head no, but he has the best sense of humor, and I think he gets me, or at least he's learning to get my sense of humor. There was many hours on the bus where he would just be sitting alone. I like to sit in the front because otherwise I get sick. But he'd just be sitting there alone, enjoying his peace and quiet, and I just wander back there and just sit next to him and just start yapping. And I'm sure at times he was like, can you just go, please sit back down in your own seat? And I was like, nope, here you are, you're stuck with me. And then when he would chair the committee, I like to run a tight ship, you know, tight. I'll cut people off. You got 2 to 3 minutes, that's it. Well, one time, Vice Chair Frederick did not do so well. And the committee went over, and we had to redo some of those and push him back another day. But you know what? I think he learned his lesson. So I just think that it's really great that we can have that friendship where we can poke at each other and laugh and just enjoy and work collaboratively with each other. And then I also want to thank Chair Koznick for your assistance in helping me with this bill. Chair Koznick understands transportation like no other member on my side of the aisle, and without him, I feel that the transportation portion of this bill might not have been quite as robust. So thank you. I love you to pieces as my brother. So thank you. And I want to thank each and every one of the members that serve on the committee. Ned Carroll, you're one of my favorites. I would ask you to yield, but you might start, your face might turn red too. He's 100% Irish, so you just never know what he might say. I'm only 46% Irish, but he's 100% Irish. So, but I think he is the best in these tours that we do across the state. We get to learn about members and get to know members, so it is really hard for me to actually pick on Representative Carroll and ask him to yield to a question on a tough bill, because I just enjoy our friendship so much that I would never want to risk that. And I even tried at one point to be funny and ask you to yield, but I just couldn't even do that to myself or to you, because people would be like, why is she picking on Ned Carroll? Because he's just so sweet. And so I also want to thank all of the communities which testified in front of our committee and hosted us on the bonding tours. Without your input and without us seeing the needs across the state, we wouldn't be able to put together this great bill as well. And I'm thinking of this community, Grand Marais, for example. All those of us that were on that tour, we saw the sanitary sewer. I'm trying to be kind about it, but there was a little duck that was floating in its own little stuff, you know, and it's like dirty water, dirtiness, but there's this little duck playing in its own waste, and I'm just happy as a lark, just swimming away, and we're like, we have got to fix Grand Marais. And as I walk, I think it was Leon, Representative Lily, that snapped a photo and sent it to me with my face in disgust as I walk away from the smell, the stench, the putrid stench, and my face is all, I will say, I have the photo if any of you want to see it, but real story here. I mean, but we got Grand Marais in this bill because we needed to save the ducks from being able to swim in their own, like, filth. So, what else do I have to say about this bill? Collaboration. I also want to talk about two things in this bill. First off, on line 27, I'll talk about that in the cash bill, never mind. I want to talk about, then we're going to go to line 410, the Mahnomen Hospital. We're going to help fix that hospital up, that nursing home. We've been on that site. This was my second tour of going to that hospital, and it was really, Mahnomen is not a rich area. and they really just needed some assistance. And on my side, the House side, we put $6 million in for that hospital. And the day that we were doing negotiations, the sewer went down, it crashed, it collapsed, whatever. It was terrible. I got sent photographs of it. And Senator Pappas helped out on a Republican project, and she put in $2.5 million from her own pot of money. And Chair Lee came in clutch and funded the rest of that project with his own money out of his own bucket to help this facility start the project of fixing up their facility. And I think that just goes to show that no matter the zip code, no matter where you are in the state of Minnesota, it's not a Republican issue, it's not a Democrat issue. Infrastructure is not partisan. And infrastructure deserves the respect, and not without looking, oh, this is a Democrat project, this is a Republican project. I don't like this member, I'm not going to fund this project. Oh, this member is a Democrat, we're not going to fund it. When it comes to the needs and when there are emergencies in the state, we will come together and make sure it's done. So I want to thank Chair Lee for that as well. There's a lot of great projects in this bill, members, and I can talk on and on, but this bill, this spreadsheet reflects Minnesota. It is not a Republican bill. It is not a Democrat bill. This is a bill that will fill the needs from across the state. Now, granted, we can talk about what's not in the bill. It's not a personalities. It's a numbers game. Okay? In 1998, a $1 billion bonding bill was passed. And that was probably very unheard of in 1998 to have that kind of a bonding bill passed. And I don't know what was going on at that time, but I can imagine there was members in this chamber saying, oh my God, a $1 billion bonding bill, this is atrocious, I can't believe it. And there was probably Republicans that are like, I can't support a $1 billion bonding bill. Today, that bonding bill would be worth $2 billion, over $2 billion. We're passing a $1.2 billion bonding bill today, which is probably around $400, $500 million in 1998 dollars. So that gives you an idea of how little our dollars stretch today compared to then. $1.2 billion bonding bill does not get you very much anymore. So if your project is not in here, it's not a reflection on you at all. It is simply a numbers game. And that is why, members, we need to seriously think about dedicated funding to fix our water infrastructure and get money into removing the lead pipes from around the state. And I know that we can get it done if the political willpower is there. Hastings does not deserve to be drinking PFAS water. Communities across the state that have been impacted by big business polluting our water deserve to have clean water. While big business gets a slap on the wrist and gets to pay for 1% to 3% of those projects through the settlement funds, the rest of Minnesota picks up the tab. And our water is getting dirtier, and we are falling farther and farther behind on asset preservation. So we are going to be happy we passed a bonding bill today, but it's a down payment. There is a lot of work to do, and it's going to take all of us to see it across the finish line. So with that, I will yield my time, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Lee F.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. First off, I do just want to echo my thanks to our incredible staff of the committees. First, to our nonpartisan staff, Andrew Lee and Chelsea Griffin. Thank you both so very much for your work this past session, this biennium, and especially over the last week and two. I don't know how Chair Franson and I would be able to manage without you two, going through so many iterations of the different bills that we have, the different targets that were being proposed at the time. And so I just want to say thank you and really appreciate having your perspective over the last few years. And members, if you have the two bills or, right now maybe just one in front of you, I think that over the last few days, having seen the work that's been put into this bill, it's almost as complex as Health and Human Services bills. The two bills combined today will be over 100 pages that's filled with projects from across the entire state of Minnesota that's going to benefit every corner of our state and communities. And I just wanted to say thank you to Jeff Case, our reviser for the Capital Investment Committee. For those of you that don't know, Jeff and his team has been working overnight for the last 48 hours to get us to the point where we're at today, getting the language before you. It's one thing to look at the spreadsheet that we have in front of us, but it's another thing to really make sure that the language that we have actually reflect the project that all of you have across the entire state, and the language actually works, because we know that one single word may impact how your community is able to access the fund that we appropriate or not. And so we don't want to take that lightly. And so I just want to say thank you to Jeff and the reviser's office. And then echoing my thanks to Henry and Liz. Thank you both for your work on our committee. Really appreciate you helping with our packed committee agendas. And now I'll move on to our partisan staff. I want to start out with the GOP staff. Thank you to Karina. I don't know if Karina is here tonight. I just found out that she actually managed or is a committee, like I said, assistant for 2 committees, Legacy and Capital Investment. That's pretty impressive. To Chelsea Axelson, thank you so very much for coming back after taking leave, and hopefully after tonight you can go back and bond with baby Briggs. And so thank you for your effort. Really appreciate the partnership over the last few years. To Joe Marble, thank you for your many years of service to the House of Representatives and to the state of Minnesota. Really appreciate the partnership that we have. I think that your leadership along with our staff allow for us to have one of the strongest House position where we went to negotiate with the Senate this year. So thank you for that, Joe. And now to our DFL staff, really want to give a shout out to my former LA Tenzin Cy Young, because he was the one that was so instrumental in helping us organize our tours last fall as we traveled throughout the entire state of Minnesota, visiting all of your communities. And now to my current LA, Nia Chang, for being a quick learner on capital investment and just being so key to helping me prepare for all of my meetings with all of your communities when they come over to the Capitol. And so thank you for that, Nia. Nathaniel Lanner, our committee media staff, for making sure that we have the opportunity to highlight the committee's work on the road, and also why it is so crucial for us to pass a robust bonding bill this year. To Evelyn Weiner, thank you for being so diligent with all the projects that I have assigned for you, and making sure that all of our members, their projects are going to work and that they're not going to be canceled as we move along in the session. And the biggest thanks to all is our committee administrator, Jenny Nash, for dealing with all of my constant requests one after another and guiding me on making the best decision for us here in the body and for the entire state of Minnesota. I really appreciate your advocacy for making sure all of our members' projects are heard on the committee or visited on the tours, and you have been so integral to getting us to the point where we are today. And I think that, as Chair Franson talked, really appreciate our partnership. It is really about making sure that we address the needs of the state, and all of our committee members have done that as we travel, spend time on the committee, and really just want to say thank you all for being part of that process. And real quickly, Chair Koznick, being our hammer, taking the side of the House DFL when we're negotiating with the Senate, making sure that we do stay strong on our House position. So really thankful for that. And Luke, our committee vice chair, your work this session on just not the bonding bill, but really sticking up for human services. I think that's really something that should be applauded. So we just want to say thank you for that. And Madam Speaker, I'll turn it over to our amendments and discuss later. Thank you.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Franson moves to amend House File Number 719, the first engrossment, delete everything after the enacting clause and insert, and the amendment is coded A26-0189.
I recognize the member from Douglas, Representative Franson, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is just a quick technical correction to the bill. No, this is the, oh, yes, that's right, sorry. Yes, this is the bill. We're amending the bill onto the, sorry. Just a quick technical, I mean, it's kind of thick, but it's just very technical in nature, okay? Vote yes.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members vote yes. This is the bill as Chair Franson mentioned.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Franson moves to amend House File Number 719, and the amendment is coded A2.
I recognize a member from Douglas, Representative Franson, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this literally is just a technical bill making some language corrections. It's only one page. Please vote yes.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Leaf.
Please vote yes, members.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Lee F. moves to amend Senate House File Number 719 as amended. The amendment is coded A3.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Lee F., to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is another technical amendment that did not make it in time for the Franson author's amendment, so I encourage your support. Thank you.
Representative Franson.
Members, technical amendment, one page. Please vote yes.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 719 as amended.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize Representative Scraba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Believe it or not, we're involved in this project, and just over there talking to Chelsea, I said, did Monoman make it in? She goes, yeah, because I didn't notice it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't tell you how much it means to me that Monoman made it in. If you ever saw it, you know the way I feel about it. But thank you for the bill. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you for the staff. And I look forward to passing this bill. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Washington, Representative Anderson, PE.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm surprised a little bit, very, very happy. This is a great bill, I think. So, Representative, I want to thank you. It's wonderful that there are, most of these dollars are going to other local, essentially other governmental units. It's for roads, water, things that are needed, infrastructure, and we aren't sending dollars off to fraudulent nonprofits, frankly. I want to mention, I know Representative Koznick is going to talk about this, but the one really, really important part of this bill is the tab fee reduction. There's $250 million in here for a one-time reduction on tab fees for the year next year. That is key, because as we know, tab fees are outrageous in this state, outrageous. And I hope that in the future that this reduction will actually be permanent. So thank you, members. Please support the bill.
I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just real briefly, in terms of the transportation, I wanted to highlight that while we didn't have a transportation policy bill this year, a lot of good work is being done in the area of transportation through this bill. $176 million in transportation projects throughout the state and virtually every member's districts. And then another couple articles, very happy, and I appreciate the work, bipartisan work, to have the Mankato Air Traffic Control Tower funded, and also the remaining needs for the Duluth Airport Tower is funded in this bill. And then, as was mentioned, the opportunity, we had a big discussion throughout session, had a good discussion through the transportation bill on how unaffordable driving in Minnesota has become with the outrageous and the new tax rates and depreciation schedule on the tab fees. And so $254 million will be used to revert your tab fees in 2027 and make driving in Minnesota, living in Minnesota, a little bit more affordable. I wish we could have, as we introduced in the Transportation Committee, we could make a permanent reduction. We will continue to work on that next year, but this just shows that it is not a problem that can't be fixed. In committee, we were told this is a problem that is going to create, by introducing a tap fee reduction, it's a problem, you can't do it, it's too complicated, it costs too much money. And I simply said, no, it's not a problem. It's a lack of prioritization. And I'm thankful for this body, the work of the Transportation Committee members, especially on the Republican side, that said, yes, this is important to Minnesota, that we can make it a little bit more affordable. It is a one-year tab fee reduction, fought and discussed very hard for that, but it's very crucial and important to families across the state. And so we will do that in 2027, and hopefully next year, under Republican control, we will reduce them more permanently. So thank you for the work, and to the staff. It was a pleasure to work on this project, bill, and also I urge your support.
I recognize the member from Blue Earth, Representative Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank Chair Lee and Chair Franson for running a really good committee. For those that haven't had the experience of serving on capital investment, it gives you a firsthand view of all of the needs across the state in each community. While there are similarities, each community brings its own kind of unique needs to the legislature with their asks, and it gives us a view into what is happening in those committees. As the vice chair, as a side note, as the vice chair, I had the opportunity to chair a committee every now and again, and one time when it goes late, I get razzed a little bit for going late, but there was poetry because the very next committee meeting that was chaired by Chair Franson also went late. So, sorry, was it too late or was it two after that? I remember, it happened. It wasn't just me. But I want to say that this process of the conference committees was one where we decided when it came to the state agencies and figuring how to fund the different projects, they came together, and we really came together as Team House. And watching both Chair Lee and Chair Franson negotiate with the Senate, it wasn't partisan. Chair Franson kind of highlighted some of the ways that Chair Lee was advocating for priorities that were in Republican districts. I would be remiss to not then highlight what Chair Franson was doing in that same negotiation, advocating for homelessness, which was a Democrat priority as well. So it was no longer Democrat or Republican, it was Team House in a negotiation with the other chamber, and we landed on a really good spot that I think we can all support, so please vote green. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Lee F.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. I just want to say that, throughout every corner of the state, all of our communities are looking for the state to help them out. And I think one of the biggest highlight that we have in the bill, when we look at if you look at just the Public Facilities Authority, over $400 million went through for water infrastructure. And so that's a third of the bill, the target that we received from our leadership. And so just know that, all these water infrastructure is really important. I just want to highlight, as I prepare for this, I didn't tell Chair Schomacker, but I was looking at one of the report from the PFA, and it was very interesting to see that, the annual wastewater cost for one of his community members is, without state support, it's going to be over $5,000 per household for their, wastewater project. But, with the bonding bill and with all the fundings that we put into water, this cost is lowered down to $912 per household. And so just think about the impact that we can make as members of this body and at the legislature to really help make it more affordable for all of our communities across the entire state of Minnesota. And so just some of the other highlights that we have in here, we have funding to protect our natural resources, to protect our assets, through the DNR, our state parks and trails. And also, for members on our side of the aisles, we have funding in here for community tree plantings. And I think that that's an important priorities of ours that we were able to jointly work together on. We have forest reforestation for, members of the other side too. And so I just know that we're doing our work, roads and bridges, making sure that Minnesotans can actually travel from point A to point B. I think that this is something that we should do. And, just on the housing front, do really appreciate the partnership from Chair Franson and Chair Koznick as we continue to fight for not just, rehabilitating our public housing assets, but really making sure that our unhoused neighbors actually have a place to stay. And I think this is an effort from Representative Keeler. Thank you for your effort around this issue. And we have a robust funding stream in there for everybody. And so, Mr. Speaker, just want to say thank you to all of you, and hopefully you will help us support and make this, send this over to the Senate. Thank you. Vote green.
Recognize a member from Douglas, Representative Franson.
I don't think I can belabor the point enough. This is a really, really good bill, and I've been pleased to co-chair the committee, and I hope that we see a sea of green on that board when we do finally vote on it. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House File 719 be laid on the table.
Representative Niska moves that the bill be laid on the table. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The bill is tabled.
The next bill on the calendar for today is House File 2484. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 2484, an act relating to capital investment.
There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Lee F. moves to amend House File number 2484, the second engrossment. It's delete everything after the enacting clause, and it's coded A26-0188.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Lee F., to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is the cash portion of the infrastructure package. I really appreciate your support for this. Total net general fund spending in this package is $28.7 million. Can I get your green votes? Thank you.
I recognize the member, Representative Franson.
I would really like to give a really short little speech about how well we worked well together. I know. On your spreadsheet on line 27, there is a Lower Sioux Indian Community Dakota Language Immersion School. So each caucus was given a pot of cash to, I guess you could say, sprinkle, because $5 million per caucus doesn't give you very much money. So I sprinkled my money around, and I had $700,000 left that I really wanted to invest in this immersion school, which would be the first in Minnesota. And when they were in my office on January 30th, talking about there's very few Native speakers left and that their language is dying, and what that means to that tribe when you lose your sense of identity. And I was thinking to myself, as someone whose dad was adopted and my biological mother passed away when I was 3 weeks old, and I don't know my dad's or his biological family, and I don't know my biological mom's side of the family. So you have that sense of identity of where do I belong and who am I? And so this bill resonated with me, because I do think that we all need to know where we come from and have that identity and be able to point to our family and our lineage. And so I was short on the extra 108,000 for their full ask of 808,000. So I want to thank Chair Lee for making that project a reality. Again, using his pot of money to make this project across the finish line. So thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of adopting the amendment say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Scott moves to amend House File Number 2484, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded A2.
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative Scott. To your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this amendment is a repealer for a project in last year's bill where $6.2 million was stolen from the County Regional Transportation Sales and Use Tax Fund. This project was a special project for the city of Anoka. As a result of this action, Anoka County filed a lawsuit to get those dollars back into the fund where they belong, where they can be used for their lawful use. It was learned this week via the Star Tribune article that this was an act of revenge against Anoka County by the DFL leader of this body. A Data Practices Act request revealed a profane message from the DFL leader of this body to the mayor of Anoka, saying this DFL leader considered this project, quote, revenge for the jail expletive that begins with an F.
This is,
a yes vote on this amendment would repeal the project.
Members, as a reminder, we are on the Scott amendment to the bill. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A Data Practices Act request revealed a profane message from the DFL leader of this body to the mayor of Anoka, saying that they considered this project, quote unquote, revenge for the jail expletive that begins with an F.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
What order of business are we on?
Members, as a reminder, we are on the Scott amendment to the bill. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A yes vote on this amendment would repeal this project. The dollars have not yet been let, and restore the $6.2 million to the county fund from which they were stolen. This would have the effect of nullifying the lawsuit that was filed by Anoka County due to this calculated power play. I ask for members' support.
Discussion to the amendment. I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Lee F.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I encourage a no vote and I request a roll call.
A roll call has been requested. Seeing more than 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Further discussion to the amendment. Representative Scott, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is an excellent amendment. I encourage a yes vote.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the name of the member participating remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Momani Hildsley.
Momani Hildsley, no.
Momani Hildsley votes no.
There being 66 ayes and 6. Oh, the clerk will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 67 nays, the amendment is not adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Lee F. moves to amend House File Number 2484. As amended, the amendment is coded A5.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Lee F., to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is technical feedback from the agency just to make it known that all of the non-capital appropriation on here are not subject to the capital policy, but the policies under the Office of Grant Management. I encourage your green vote.
Discussion to the amendment. Representative Franson. No further discussion. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended.
Third reading, House File Number 2484, as amended.
Third reading. Further discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that House File 2484 be laid on the table.
Representative Niska moves that House File 2484 be laid on the table. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails and the bill is laid on the table. Conference committee report. The clerk will report the conference committee.
On House File Number 2438, an act relating to taxes, the reports addressed to the Honorable Lisa M. Dameth, Speaker of the House, the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned conferees for House File Number 2438 report we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by 4 out of the 4 members on behalf of the House and signed by 4 of the 5 members on behalf of the Senate. Davids moves that the report of the Conference Committee on House File Number 2438 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the member from Fillmore, Representative Davids, to the report.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This is the 2026 tax bill. We will go through it, and I would like to, at this time, go to my good friend, the tax chair, Co-Chair Gomez.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Chair Davids. I'm just going to run through the bill quickly because we haven't had a conversation about it in this chamber before. It will be available. The DE will be available on the tax website along with the summary shortly. You can find the language posted online. Most of the fiscal changes in the Tax Conference Committee report relate to federal conformity. There were major changes made to the Internal Revenue Code last year by the federal government, and we have to align with them. The parts of federal conformity, if you have any specific questions, Representative Davids would be happy to answer them. It's the most arcane parts of our corporate tax code, very complicated stuff. Our staff has really been working overtime to make sure that we are in good shape and that our tax code is administrable. The other items that are in this conference committee report, Chair David's House File 3127, which is a 2-year extension of the pass-through entity tax, the salt cap workaround. That's good for tax years 26 and 27. It includes sustainable aviation fuel bill that we've heard, a one-time increase in the homestead credit, the property tax refunds. That's $125 million. Those who are eligible will receive an increase of almost 15%, and that's for taxes, PTR that's being paid out this year in 2026. There is a 1-year removal of the cap on the beginning farmer tax credit. There is a 4-year tax exemption for professional golf association tickets. The minerals article is included. This bill also establishes a permanent and ongoing aid to school districts to 36 of the school districts out of 330 in the state. It contains a direct file program, Representative Anderson's 100% tax on fraud, changes to the homestead resort classification threshold for valuation thresholds. The Lake City Levy Authority, Representative Altendorf is in. Two property tax exemptions for the Fond du Lac Band of Ojibwe, and income tax subtraction for one-time payments to nursing facility workers. The new City of Northern is going to receive local government aid under this bill. It includes a 4-year extension of the local homeless prevention aid, which goes to every county in the state. It also contains the Department of Revenue's policy and technical bill. There's a TIF article. There's one general TIF law change, 6 local bills, and the public finance bill. There's a couple other small items, but Madam Speaker, that is the bill. Thank you.
There being no further discussion on the conference committee, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, House File Number 2438, as amended by conference.
Third reading is amended by conference. Further discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that House File 2438 be laid on the table.
Representative Niska moves that House File 2438 be laid on the table. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The bill is tabled. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the Senate has concurred in and adopted the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File Number 4612, an act relating to state government modifying provisions relating to the Department of Health, Human Services, and Children. The message is signed Thomas Bodern, Secretary of the Senate. The report is addressed to the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate, the Honorable Lisa Damas, Speaker of the House. We, the undersigned conferees for Senate File Number 4612, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by 4 out of the 4 members on behalf of the House and 3 of the 4 members on behalf of the Senate. Bierman moves that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File Number 4612 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Bierman, to explain.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this bill has improved after Conference Committee, the most positive aspect being the action by this legislature to support the Hennepin County Medical Center. HCMC is a critical asset for the entire state of Minnesota, and this bill creates a firm foundation for its future. In this bill, we have also put some resources into the needs of our hospital systems statewide. We have seen a steady contraction of service lines and facilities, especially in rural areas, due to pressures of increasing medical costs, low reimbursement, and policy decisions that create more and more uncompensated care. We deliver some relief in this bill through a stabilization fund and an MA rate increase at critical access hospitals. But the headwinds facing hospitals are significant in all of our communities and will only increase in the years ahead with federal impacts of disinvestment of healthcare by Republican policy in Washington. Yet there is one big thing that we could have easily accomplished here, and it would cost $0. We could enforce the compliance of Big Pharma to abide by required discounted drug pricing for contract pharmacies for hospitals. Members, after HCMC, 340B drug discount program enforcement is the #1 need of our hospitals. They've been coming to us all session. That has been their primary ask. It's been asking us to do that, to simply enforce a law that is on the books. I reported to you the last time I spoke on this floor about the Virginia, Minnesota hospital that has been experiencing $20 million loss in underpayments. But other hospitals with loss in revenue due to noncompliance of pharma include Winona, Blue Earth, Brainerd, Bemidji, Ely, Madelia, Perham, Crookston, and many, many more. Put the enforcement on, like 20 other states, problem is done. It would be an easy fix. Delaying the sunset only, without enforcement, only exacerbates the problem. It would encourage more pharmaceutical companies to cut their discounts. Now, what we've seen in this session is Republicans in this body have voted enforcement down in the Health Committee and buried the Senate file that passed with enforcement in the other chamber, with 13 Republican senators voting for it. The question, members, is why? In this bill, H.R. 1 casts a pall over this entire health system in the country, and there are some other good measures that we were able to pass in this bill, and I do want to highlight a few of them. Rep. Elkins adds a review of prior authorization denials by insurance companies. That's going into the APCD, the All Payer Claims Database. Good bill will be able to look at denials in the future and understand the volume that is affecting our health care in this state. Rep. Schultz has his annual pool bill. This one permits private residential pools to be used for certified swim classes for young children with medical complexity and disabilities. It's a good bill. Rep. Hewitt has a third funeral home bill this session. This one on natural organic reduction. Rep. Zeleznikar has a flavoring agents allowed for improving medication palatability, especially for children. Great bill. Representative Mahmoud, continued work to expand the Minnesota Medication Repository. We can do a lot more work in there, but we're moving ahead step by step. And Rep. Gilman, a bill to establish a regulatory structure for direct primary care. Some good legislation. We have other additions in the health bill, which include some late additions due to vehicle issues. The Norris bill on Medicaid fraud control unit. We have a school-linked mental health and mobile crisis, which came from the public safety education side into this bill. We have an educator group insurance study. And members, we have the grant to Helping Paws organization in honor of Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman to place service dogs with individuals or for facilities like schools or a courthouse, a proven program that is really, really impactful in helping many, many people. So glad to see that in here as well. I do have a co-chair, Madam Speaker, who I'd like to make some comments as well.
I recognize a member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And one of the things, this bill, like co-chair Bierman talked about, has good things, but what I really was proud of is what we were able to hold in this bill. The bill that passed the House floor really talked about our values, and those values is work ethics. It is good for individuals to work in and contribute to our society, if it's volunteering, if it's nonprofit, if it's working, helping other people. And we were able to continue to keep that in this bill. Also, we were able to add additional dollars for uncompensated care for our critical access hospitals with a minimum grant of $50,000. Along with that, I know the folks on the Iron Range really appreciated the work that we did. The framework for gas wells of any bills, like this is the bill that we carried that in, which allows Minnesotans to do what they do best, and that's to be creative. We have great resources in this state, and even though this is small part of the bill, I think this could be big things for our state. So with that, I would ask for a green vote. I'll save some more comments to the third readings, but ask for a green vote for the adoption of this conference report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All those in favor of adopting the conference committee report say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, Senate File Number 4612, as amended by conference.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. There's so many things to say about this bill, and I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna stay focused. I'm going to thank the people. Yeah, go ahead. I want to thank the people that really did the heavy lifting first, and it's our nonpartisan staff. It's Annie Mock, it's Elizabeth Clarquist, it's Laura Day, it's Melissa Stern, putting up with me and Representative Bierman, Representative Backer. This was a long haul. And this bill it's got a lot of great things in it. I think one of the biggest and most important things, there's $30 million uncompensated care fund for critical access and dish hospitals in rural Minnesota. It has a number of, we also, probably even more important than that, is we were able to raise the rates for critical access hospitals for the first time in a really long time. And that is ongoing, members. That's in the tails, and that's going to be a lot of help. I want to talk a little bit about HCMC. We made some big changes in this with governance and reports, and we showed up and we said, we're going to be here to help, but you're going to be accountable for our help. And we're paying their directed payment program. That's $100 million. We're also providing $105 million in uncompensated care. That will happen in 2026. And then starting in the middle of 2027, we build a hospital stabilization fund that all hospitals in a critical, if they meet this very, very critical component where they are able to apply for additional funds. And our hospitals, everybody here knows, we're in an interesting spot. HCMC is the kind of the spear of that. It's they have a high percentage of public program patients. A couple of other things that I don't think were mentioned is that we've got MAFPA funding for counties in this bill, $15 million. We've got $10.7 million in this bill to offset new administrative costs for our counties. Forensic interview training scholarships are in this bill. We've got crisis nursery licensing frameworks in this bill. Representative Bierman mentioned most of the things, community mini grants. I mean, it's kind of amazing in a non-budget year that we were able to really touch a lot of things. And I think that's the balance that the legislature is kind of saying in this bill, is that, there's accountability that we want to put in place, but at the same time, we want to provide the services. The other thing that's in here is regional food bank grants are in this bill, $4.9 million. Representative Katiza-Wattoon and Representative West really pushed those things. There's $5 million food shelves in this bill. We worked really hard. We were a little bit late, but we should have had a little bit in there for medically prepared meals, but we got close, but we didn't quite get there. And the last thing that I want to talk about, I think, that's the last thing I want to talk about. Thank you, members. This is a really good bill in a difficult time. It's a critical bill. It's an absolutely critical bill that we pass. And I forgot, Representative Elkin's stuff is in this bill too. It's denial information. I mean, the denial rate information that we're going to be able to use. We're going to be able to use in the future. That's going to make us better, more effective policymakers when it comes to health care. So I want to thank everyone that participated in this, and please vote green on this bill.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Abaje.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to everyone in this body who came together to save HCMC, our premier Level 1 trauma center. I know Representative Nadeau talked a little bit about it, but I will go into a little bit more detail so people know what's actually in the deal. In our various hearings, we heard that this was a statewide asset and that our intervention by the state now shows our commitment to the hospital that cares for all of us. HCMC, as many of you know, provides primary care and also treats specialized issues like burns. It's also one of our busiest emergency departments in the state, seeing over 100,000 patients every year. It also employs more than 6,500 people, and a third of those patients are from outside of Hennepin County. It is also a teaching hospital that educates the next generation of doctors, many of which go on to provide care in many rural areas across Minnesota. The best part is that high-quality care at HCMC is available to all of us, any of us, regardless of our ability to pay. And should we not provide this funding to HCMC, we would be facing a disaster in our state that would affect not only Hennepin County, but all hospitals across the state. This hospital needs those funds to address uncompensated care costs that are exploding, current and future costs to Medicare and Medicaid, and future loss of income because of the federal government under H.R. 1. And all of those happened in such a way that put our safety net hospital at risk. So despite our differences across the aisle, we were able to step up and provide that immediate cash funding that you heard about in a total amount of $205 million, $100 million split across DPP payments, and another $105 million directly to the hospital. This will stabilize operations, pay for staff, equipment, and IT needs, and help maintain asset preservation on the hospital campus. In addition, we're allowing for access to general reserve funds for the hospital through 2031 in an amount of up to $500 million. It will be available to other hospitals, but you need to meet certain criteria, and ideally right now it looks like Hennepin County is most likely to meet that criteria. These funds not only offer a lifeline, but additional security to doctors, nurses, and staff at the hospital. Throughout this entire session from February onward, we heard in multiple hearings across multiple committees that these are the people that care for us, and they needed us to step up for them because that is where people had their babies. Maybe on their worst day of their life, they were saved by HCMC. They get their consistent cancer treatments there. Everything is provided for them at HCMC, and so this is a way for us to give back. Representative Nadeau talked about some of the governance and oversight structure. In addition to that, this helps the state walk in partnership with Hennepin County. So you'll see that we help them move to a professional board starting in January of 2027. There also needs to be mediation between the county and the Attorney General's office should the county want to take over the hospital board again. And then quarterly reports about the use of the funding are required once the funding goes to the hospital. And then finally, we have a task force that will develop long-term solutions for the hospital to make sure that it is sustainable financially for the future. All of this together will ensure that HCMC will be around for years to come. I want to say a couple thank yous before I close out, especially on the HCMC team. Matt Eichinger from Republican staff, Patrick McQuillan, Jack Dockendorf, and Joe Durheim from DFL staff. And of course, as I mentioned, Representative Nadeau could not have done this without you in order to make sure that both caucuses came together to provide the funding that was needed. And of course, my wonderful tax chair, Representative Aisha Gomez, who helped every step along the way to make sure that we could walk out of this legislative session without having a hospital close its doors on us after we end. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize a member from Clay, Representative Keeler.
Thank you, Speaker. I know we've gone over the policy of the bill. I think sitting in the Health Committee is a really unique place. We get to hear from some of the most wonderful people across the state. And just because we had a little bit of time, I wanted to stand up. I think we've had a lot of nurses, we've had a lot of physicians, we've had a lot of parents, we've had a lot of hospital staff from across the state come in and just tell us what their experience is. And I want to take a minute. We give a lot of credit to our staff and say thank you. I really just want to pause and say thank you to the nurses, thank you to the doctors, thank you to the people who choose to stay in healthcare to take care of us so that when we show up, even in the most rural corners of Minnesota, people are there to care for us. People are choosing to stay in a career. I think we've seen over the last couple decades, nursing is a really hard career to be in. It's a career that I'm not totally sure we've been a great partner in, and I hope that we can do better in supporting them. But to those who showed up in our committee this year, in the middle of their long shifts, you know, that takes courage, that takes bravery, and I just want to acknowledge the work that you do, and I want to say thank you.
I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Ryer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 2 quick points about this bill. Chair Bierman mentioned how it is a better bill than when we left, and one of the reasons is that we took this opportunity to look at the ways that we could do the least harm for the people who will be affected by H.R. 1, and found a way to be able to balance alignment with the requirements of the federal government with the needs of the most vulnerable in our community. And secondly, I would just like to say how much I appreciate having the study for EGIP in the program, the Educator Group Insurance Program. Having that in the bill positions us for a bold approach to creating a new pool that will be more efficient and really make a difference in the lives of all of the people in the public and charter school systems who are taking care of our kids. So thank you so much.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Jones.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I honestly, I just want to echo everything that has already been said, but especially because HCMC is in my district, I cannot thank this body any more than I am right now. It is such a crucial hospital, not only in my district, obviously, but across the state. But just, it is a lifeline. It is for everyone, just for their health and medical needs, but it is an economic center in downtown Minneapolis. And so, again, thank you to Esther Agbaje and to Representative Gomez. I mean, you two especially, you have spearheaded this. I just thank you to the bottom of my heart, very much. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Katiza Watoon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, when Co-Chair West and I adjourned the Children and Families Committee for the last time this biennium about a month ago, I didn't know how we could move so many of the great things in this bill forward. So a couple of weeks ago, I had offered a Children and Families Amendment to the health bill, and it was ruled not germane. But as the young child in Steven Spielberg's 1982 supernatural horror film Poltergeist would say, they're back. As I explained then, this bill was always meant to be a children and families bill. And finally, it is. I'd like to highlight the children and families provisions within. First and foremost, this bill now contains a $10 million investment in emergency food supports to our food banks and food shelves. Thank you, Representative Gander and Representative Coulter. Now more than ever, we need this investment. With SNAP cuts from the federal government's H.R. 1 and rising grocery costs, this network of local food supports for all Minnesotans is vital. This bill now contains critical funding to help mitigate the negative impacts Minnesota will face once anti-SNAP provisions from H.R. 1 go into effect, and also supports our counties in administering the SNAP program. This bill now contains $15 million of essential funds for our counties to implement the requirements of the Minnesota African American Family Preservation and Child Welfare Disproportionality Act when it goes into effect in January that they've been asking for many months. This bill makes an investment in trauma-informed forensic interviews to protect children when they are witnesses or victims of abuse or crime. Thank you, Representative Pete Johnson. Last but not least, at least from the fiscal side, this bill allocates funding for child care and crisis nursery licensing modernization. Thank you again, Representative Coulter and Representative Torkelson. These provisions are a much-needed update to the way that child care regulations are structured in Minnesota. It consolidates licensing standards into 2 chapters in statute and will make it easier for center-based and family child care providers to very clearly understand the standards they need to meet as they care for each and every Minnesotan. I need to thank many people for coming together and working all session long and insane hours, especially over the past few days, to make this bill before us. I can't thank our staff enough, but to our nonpartisan team for your dedication and the work that you do to help us with all the details. Huge thanks to Doug Berg, Laura Falone Day, Sarah Sunderman, Danielle Punelli, and our reviser, Dean Treffs. Thank you to our partisan staff on the DFL side, Joe Durheim and Caleb Rohr, GOP, Ryan Woods, Elizabeth Lauka, and Aaron Bursey, and my left hand, Coley Colburn. I couldn't do this without you. To my co-chair, Nolan West, and our vice chair, GOP vice chair, Nathan Nelson, and of course, my vice chair, Jess Hansen, and all the rest of the Children and Families team members. I owe much to Chairs Backer and Bierman and Senator Wiklund for taking in and giving a home to our Children and Families minibus. Thank you so much, Senator Melissa Wiklund and her incredible and unwavering CA, Anna Burke. We've learned so much from you, and you will be greatly missed. Importantly, members, this bill does not include the major state investments that we will need to fix the child care crisis, and this bill will not lower the cost of child care for families. We have a lot of work to do on that next year, but this is a great start. Please vote green for Minnesota's children, youth, and families. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's wonderful to almost be wrapping up session, and here we are with probably the most significant bill we're passing today. I'm just going to cover what's important to our committee and what takes up like 120 pages in the bill, which is child care licensing modernization. So this takes every single child care regulation that is currently split between statute, but mostly in rules, sucks them all up out of rules and puts them into statute. This puts everything in one place, which makes navigating this way easier, but we also make a litany of improvements to these regulations from where they stand today. Things like listing out how many sets of building blocks you need to have per child, per classroom, over-prescriptive regulations about supervision and more accurate ways to keep attendance and manage your reimbursements from the state and federal government. On the center side of this, it is going to have meaningful savings because it gets rid of paperwork like having to have a child's dentist, even if they have no teeth. And we have seen from numerous centers, and not to mention the associations, that they are very enthusiastic about this change. Then it also does family care regulations. And currently, Minnesota has lost a lot of family care providers in the last several years. It has been grim. This bill takes all those regulations and makes them make a whole lot more sense. Things that I focused on were what gives parents the most authority. Because fundamentally, even though you are putting them in the care of another, it's your responsibility as a parent to for the well-being of your child. So this requires access for parents when their kids are in daycare, which I was surprised this wasn't law already, but this is something that I think is important. It also standardizes whether a child can be held out or put in a child care setting, and puts that with a physician and a doctor rather than the subjective assessment of the provider. It also provides new licensing structure for the family care providers that create new child care slots in the infant and toddler range. And that is incredibly important because running a child care business is not easy. It's very expensive, and these new slots create more opportunities for both parents to find care for their children and for providers to build their business. It also standardizes what used to be called special child care licensing and creates community licensing. This is really important for your kind of child care centers that, well, they're technically family child care, like a church that can have multiple classrooms that are separate child care entities. So you can drastically increase the available child care slots so that families can find care for their children, and we can turn the tide of our constantly lost family care child slots. And I would urge members to support the bill.
I recognize a member from St. Louis, Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill has been, I'm sure, a tremendous challenge for our chairs. I want to thank them both. the behavioral health grants for schools. The direct primary care is a wonderful thing for Minnesotans. The drug flavoring for kids and seniors is probably one of the smaller things, but I'm grateful it's there because it will ease people, help them when they're having administration problems. The food shelf, the money for the Minnesota African American Family Preservation Act for the 85 counties that didn't get funding will be a great assistance. The family child care ratios are getting changed. We've lost 50% of our family child cares. That's been a top priority. Protecting nature-based child care for our centers and families, and the meaningful changes to our centers. We have an issue with people waiting to get child care, and we needed to see changes. We had tremendous issues with a 3-month session. The HCMC critical situation we all found ourselves in, a lot of competing interests with trying to land this plane. I understand the urgency with the Trauma One, a burn center that matters to many for our state, and we had to find pathways to do this. All of you know that the 340B issue has been passionate for me, and while I'm disappointed that it's not here in this bill in the way I would have hoped, I'm committed to continually working on this issue for the state, and I appreciate the funding methods that we have in this bill, and I understand the things that aren't here, and I'm committed to continue working for that to get this done. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Thank you, members. Health matters in Minnesota. We know that. What this bill does is it keeps the necessary resources in our state, because we would have lost $3.5 to $5 billion every single year. This is why our caucus worked so hard for health care. This matters to our hospitals. This matters to our clinics. And most importantly, it matters to all our constituents who are on Medicare. If we lost that $3.5 billion a year, up to $5 billion a year, those people would have been harmed. Our hospitals would have been harmed. This is what this bill did. This is a priority of our caucus, is to help people's health care. And that's why we fought so hard for conformity. I know we'll hear from the other side, and I respect that opinion. But at the end of the day, I want people to know that for our caucus, and I know healthcare matters to all of us here, but this is why we fought so hard for those resources. And I thank everybody, our committee members, that we have some of the most interesting subjects. I want to thank them. I want to thank our staff, because without them, you know, we would not be here today. This was a difficult bill. And I want to thank my co-chairman, Bierman. It's been an honor to serve with you the last 2 years. We've went through some difficult times. And thank you, Speaker, for appointing me this position. Health matters in Minnesota. Vote green.
I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I, too, want to thank the staff. My co-chair is absolutely correct. We have an excellent staff. Our CAs, Jack Dockendorf and Hannah Zimmerman, and our researchers, Joe Durheim and Ethan Eichinger, along with our LAs. We have to thank them as well, Seneb and Liam. They put it all together for us. Really appreciate that. And I, too, want to thank the committee members. You know, I was thinking about this job the other day and why I do it, and whether I should run for re-election again. And, you know, I think that someone asked me, why do you do it? And I said, because I think the people up here who are working with me, they do this job because they're caring people. And I think they are epitomized on the health committees that I've been on over the years. And I also want to thank Rep. Keeler for her remarks about the nurses, the staff at these facilities, going out to a lot of hospitals and tours. The caring that goes on in our healthcare facilities is amazing. The people are so dedicated, and they set the bar very, very high. And I think they do need to be acknowledged, and thank you for doing that. So I want to also thank my co-chair. Honored to serve with you as well, Chair Backer, and as well as Vice Chairs Ryer and Nadeau. This team, we've got 2 years under our belt. Not that I want a third in these conditions, but it's been good. We've learned how to disagree while remembering the job our communities sent us here to do is to advocate for their interests. And at the end, we did the single most important thing we could do this year, which was to protect the Minnesotans by ensuring HCMC will remain open for years to come, and that people across this state will have somewhere to go and people to care for them when they are in need. We can be also confident that the next generation of healthcare professionals will have the opportunity to learn from those with the most experience serving people in the greatest need. HCMC is a teaching hospital, and they are teaching people who come and replace the older doctors, and there's a lot of retirements going on there. And it's an incredible accomplishment what our members in this body did to negotiate this, and I just want to again thank Representative Chair Gomez and Vice Chair Agbaje and Vice Chair Nadeau especially. There were many other people who had conversations along the way and put this deal together and had input, and they listened, and we came out with an amazing deal. So really, really appreciate that. Again, beyond providing that stability to HCMC, we invested in hospitals across the state to insulate Medicaid as these Republican healthcare tax cuts go into effect nationwide. Of course, we also know this won't be enough, what we've done this year. Hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans are losing their healthcare coverage, and the consequences will be severe. Not only will the health outcomes of those Minnesotans deteriorate, but the hospitals and clinics across the state will struggle to replace the lost Medicaid dollars that are a critical part of their operations. It should be clear to all of us that we have a long road to go if we are serious about fixing a terribly broken healthcare system. Our system, in so many ways, has been rigged from top to bottom at the expense of regular people, like the Minnesota families who were promised care for their medically complex children by their health insurance company, only to have that coverage suddenly eliminated and leaving them to pick up the pieces. Members, there is no other word to describe what health plans have done to these families besides violence. And if these children die at home because of a decision by an insurance company, I, for one, will be remembering the inaction of this legislature on that issue. The one thing I think all of our constituents know about our healthcare system is that insurance companies and pharmaceutical manufacturers are too often writing the laws, whether it's federal or even here in Minnesota. It doesn't have to be that way, but it is right now. I've seen how members of this body defer to the biggest, most profitable corporations in our state when they're making the rules, and I've seen the voices of regular working people cast aside. Even when there are laws on the books to rein in these companies, we've seen firsthand how they ignore or skirt around the rules. Insurance companies and their highly paid lawyers found a loophole to deny care to children of immense need. And they can do so because they have close allies in the Capitol. Big Pharma, can ignore our 340B laws because they've earned enough favors with people in power. That's what it feels like and looks like outside the Capitol. And I would implore us to change our priorities and think who we are listening to when we make decisions about our healthcare system. I am pleading with members of this body that when we return next session, we think big picture about who this system is serving and where our loyalties lie. With the middlemen who skim off the top, or with the patients and the people who are dedicating their lives to caring for them. Members, this work will go on, and our mission to ensure everyone receives the care they need will continue. But today, I encourage you on this critically important vote to vote green. Thank you.
The clerk will take the roll.
I got to depend on you guys. Got a lot I got to do here.
The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle votes no.
Burkle votes no. Momani Hiltsley.
Momani Hiltsley, aye.
Momani Hiltsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 108 ayes and 26 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and the title is agreed to. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I move that House File 2438 be taken from the table.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Long.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this is the tax bill, and I urge support.
All in favor of taking House File 2438 from the table say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The clerk will report the bill.
Conference Committee report on House File number 2438, an act relating to taxes. Now the clerk will take the roll. We already gave it a third reading. Yeah. Yes, so the clerk will take the roll.
Further discussion on third reading. I recognize a member from Martin, Representative Olson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Last year, I asked if the state of Minnesota had forgotten about our veterans. I said, I told you a story about a soldier who had lost both of his legs in Afghanistan, and he was 100% disabled. And he said, Representative Olson, every day I wake up and I am reminded about my disability. Sometimes I fear that the state of Minnesota is forgetting about my disabilities. Members, this year, the Commander's Task Force, a group that represents all 300,000 veterans in this state, I'll remind you, it's the American Legion, the AMVETS, the Disabled American Veterans, the Jewish War Veterans, the Marine Corps League, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, the Paralyzed Veterans of America, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. They came here and they said, we need one thing. And that one thing that we needed is to increase the disabled veteran homestead market value exclusion. Now, if you remember, members, about 20 years ago, the state of Minnesota said members of the military who have sacrificed so much for us should not have to pay their property taxes at a certain level, and they set that at $300,000 for 100% disabled individuals. And they set it at $150,000 for individuals who are 70% disabled. They came here and they asked us to increase that due to the fact that properties have increased so much over the last 20 years. And we are not only forgetting them in this bill, but we are ignoring them in this bill. Another year has passed where we have decided to ignore the disabled veterans. And we always get the same answer from those who are against it. They say, this will increase other individuals' property taxes. Well, members, I have the information on how much that shift would occur. In my county, in Martin County, Minnesota, it would affect our property taxes by 0.057%. 0.057% for individuals who are not disabled. I looked at it. Hennepin County, their property tax would be shifted by 0.068%. And members, I looked for the highest, most affected county based off of our estimates. If we were to make this happen, the largest shift would be Stearns County. Sorry, Representative O'Driscoll. Stearns County would see a shift of 0.248%. Members, in monetary value, we would be asking people to help support our disabled veterans to the tune of $4.80 per taxpayer. $4.80 to say we support our veterans, but we couldn't do it again this year. I am starting to believe that the state of Minnesota has not only forgotten our veterans, but we are ignoring them. We must do something next year.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Acom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I will be very brief. I just want to thank the Tax Committee for letting us get the nuclear study in, since we didn't have a home in the, we didn't have an energy bill this year. The language in the bill will ensure a thorough and unbiased study of nuclear energy, including a true comparison of the life cycle costs, the health impacts, environmental impacts, risk of accidents, transmission expansion, and the liabilities between nuclear energy generation and other forms of generation, including renewables like solar, wind, geothermal, and battery storage. And we should have the findings for the study next year, so thank you so much. Appreciate again getting it in the bill.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Please vote green.
Recognize the member from Fillmore, Representative Davids.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank Chair Gomez for her description of the bill. I think she did a very good job on it. A couple of things, and you usually don't talk about what's not in a bill, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the local option sales taxes. For example, for the city of St. Paul, we had Representative Norris's Blaine in there. It's a huge, huge project that won't be happening now. One that I'm very, very concerned about is Virginia. Virginia is converting from a steam plant to natural gas. They don't have a way to pay for it. This was the way to pay for it. But I don't know what's going to happen to them right now. We had Plymouth, we had Minnetonka, we had very, very good projects in here, but that's what's not in the bill. So I'm a strong green on this bill for what is in the bill. And I would just like to name the bill, as we do every year. The tax bill is named urgent by the song Foreigner. Look it up. It's very appropriate. It is just such an honor to work with Chair Gomez in the world-famous Tax Committee. And I do have some thank yous I do want to go through. The pages, Sierra Eichten, Tristan Soar, nonpartisan staff, who we really put them through the ringer, every one of them this year. Chris Clayman, Sean Williams, Jared Swanson, Justin Cope, Cynthia Templin, Katrina Highmark, Alexander Hagler, partisan staff, Sean Haydorn, Jacob Cowan, the CLAs, Samara Sheik, wonderful job, Jennifer Goblersch, wonderful job, CAs Patrick McQuillan, Sam Moyer, Vice Chairs Joy, a wonderful Vice Chair, and Vice Chair Norris. I would be very remiss if I didn't thank my good friend, Senator Ann Rest, for all the work she's done over the years in the tax area. Senator Bill Weber, Mitch Berggren does a wonderful job in the Senate. I want to thank the Gold Ties and the State Patrol for keeping us safe during our committee meetings. I would like to thank Ron Hubbard of House Information. Working with the department, Commissioner Marquardt just simply does a great job. And Joanna Bears, Eric Willett, we kind of put him through the ringer too, I'd have to say. So with that, members, I'll just wrap up here. And again, thank you, Chair Gomez. Let's vote green.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
What's that? Okay, Momani Hillsley's here. Well, we're working on it.
The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Burkle.
Go. Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 126 ayes and 8 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title is agreed to. Messages from the Senate.
From the Senate, Madam Speaker, I hereby announce that the Senate has concurred in and adopted the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File Number 4476, an act relating to state government modifying provisions relating to human services. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodern, Secretary of the Senate. The report is addressed to the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate, and the Honorable Lisa Damas, Speaker of the House. We, the undersigned conferees for Senate File Number 4476, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by 4 out of the 4 members on behalf of the House and 3 of the 4 members on behalf of the Senate. Schomacker moves that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File Number 4476 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize a member from Rock, Representative Schomacker, who will explain the Senate amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. What we have in front of us today should be adopted. It's very similar to what we saw when it left the House floor. What we're talking about is largely program integrity and helping out the Department of Human Services to make sure that we have a system that has the integrity measures put inside of it so that we can trust the numbers that we see, so that we can trust the money that gets spent in this area of government. You know, this is always an area that we see have large amounts of growth. We have the numbers that we just can't really grasp in our minds, and the bill that we have in front of us now is going to be one that makes it a whole lot easier to be able to trust the numbers that we have, to be able to budget better, to be able to forecast what we are doing for human services so that we don't have to take the budget decisions and the budget targets like we had last year. I've contended since we passed this bill out of the Human Services Committee in the first place that if we were able to pass this bill last year, we wouldn't have had the forecasts that had the programs grow as much as they did, and we could have saved a lot of the different budget decisions that we had to make last year. And so I'm thankful for that as we move through here, that we can have more trust in the numbers and the forecasts that we have, and that people are still going to be able to receive the care that they need, and that we have decisions that can be made in the future with much better information than what we have today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Noor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Please consider passing the conference report. Thank you so much.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendment say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by the Senate.
Third reading, Senate File Number 4476, as amended by conference.
Third reading as amended by the Senate. Discussion, I recognize Representative Noor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I just wanted to say thank you to all the non-partisan staff, partisan staff, the revisor's office. Above all, I just wanted to say thank you to Co-Chair Schomacker for your outstanding partnership and leadership throughout this work. I truly appreciate the collaboration, the work that we have done all together. This chamber will truly miss you. You have done an amazing job to really work for the people of Minnesota. And for that, members, this is a bill that we may not all agree with what is in the bill, but it's a good bill. Please vote green.
I recognize a member from Meeker, Representative Gilman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill has been very challenging. We did work very tirelessly. And again, I just want to thank our folks that stayed up late with us, came into conversations that were really difficult, because again, once again, the administration and the lack of oversight and leadership made us take the biggest cuts to our entire budget on the backs of folks with disabilities. How do you pick winners and losers? It is so, so challenging and heartbreaking. But we showed up, we did the work, we found compromises. Last year, again, we had the biggest cut in state history here, so to Human Services. So I'm grateful that I got to be a part of the process. I definitely want to see it look different when you get women in the room. I think the process could look better, and I think we could do a better job with that, and that'll be very enjoyable. And again, to the public and to the people that have sent emails, and the fact that we couldn't have a public hearing on this was very frustrating and also just heartbreaking. The committee work that we did, though, we were able to hear lots and lots of heartbreaking stories, and also be encouraged by the folks that do the work to take care of those that we most care about in our communities. So again, I would urge a green vote. We did the hard work, and this bill will impact the rest of our work we're doing here to close off our session. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Rock, Representative Schomacker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members, and I'll just close with a couple of thank yous. I have a chance to do this again tomorrow, so I'll keep that a little bit more. But thank you to, first off, Jeremiah Wingstead and
Megan Rosbach because they asked me to thank them. So I'm thanking them for that. That was great. And Chair Nora, I'll have more to say for you tomorrow, but the amount of respect that I have for you and the work that you do, it is very obvious that you have a long-range plan for how human services should work in this state. You don't have an agenda that is self-serving, that is one-sided. You're always looking to what makes the program better, what makes the system better, and the amount of respect that I have for you keeps growing as we continue to work together, and I'm sorry that that will be coming to an end, but it's very sincerely, it means a lot that in this situation that we've had over the last 2 years that I got to work with you and not some of the others that I could have worked with. And so really thankful for that, really thankful for the opportunity that we have here to bring some more program integrity to the Department of Human Services. A lot of the things that we had through the interim last year that we had trouble with and frustrations with got fixed in this bill so that we don't have to sit on our hands again this next year during the interim, and would ask for your green vote.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the name of the member participating remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle, no.
Burkle votes no.
The clerk will close the roll.
I can't take notes.
There being 108 ayes and 26 nay, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and the title is agreed to. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I move that we take House File 2484 from the table.
Representative Niska moves that we take House File 2484 from the table. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Long.
I urge support.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails.
Clerk will report the bill.
The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 2484, an act relating to capital investment.
Continued discussion on the third reading. Recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Lief.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is the cash portion of the bill. Please vote green.
I recognize the member from Representative Franson.
Members, vote green.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the name of the member participating remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle, no.
Burkle votes no.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 96 ayes and 38 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title is agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is Senate File 5200. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 5200, an act relating to legislative enactments.
Members, please take your conversations quietly to the alcoves or the retiring room. There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Liebling moves to amend Senate File number 5200 as follows. The amendment is coded A26-0181.
I recognize the member from Olmsted, Representative Liebling, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is the annual corrections bill. The amendment puts in the corrections that have been identified in the last few days. These are very well vetted. There's a document that came out with the explanation of the three small corrections that should be on your desk, but this should be very non-controversial. And I just want to take the opportunity, well, let's adopt the amendment, Madam Speaker. Please vote green.
Discussion,
Vote yes.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Scott.
I recommend a green vote on the amendment and a green vote on the bill. I'll just save everybody some time.
All those in favor of adopting the amendment say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended.
Third reading, Senate File number 5200 as amended.
Third reading as amended. Discussion to the bill. Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. So I just want to always remind the body when we do the corrections bill, we have an unwritten rule in the House. Our staff do not make errors. Only members make errors, and this is the opportunity to correct a few of them. Please vote green.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the name of the member participating remotely.
Burkle.
Go.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Thank you, Steph.
There being 134 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title is agreed to. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we're almost there, but we're just going to take a beat and figure out what's going on in the other body, so I move a recess to call of the chair.
Representative Niska moves a recess to the call of the Speaker. Representative Long? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The House stands in recess.